Welcome to Fort Knox. I am John Fortt, live at the NASDAQ market site in New York's Times Square, and I don't even own a dog, but I am excited about today's topic because so many people do. The economy, the pet economy, is worth billions of dollars, and technology has made it easier to take really good care of your pets. And I mean, when I say billions, I mean in the neighborhood of $70 billion and climbing that we spend on pets every single year. And I have got just a great panel to talk today about the best ways to care for pets, the innovative ways to do it, starting with Bill Mcfadden. You might have seen his face recently in the news. He is the owner of Bold Oaks Kennels. He is an expert dog handler and breeder with 25 plus years of experience, and perhaps most important, he recently won Best in Show, or rather, Bichon Frise Flynn won Best in Show at the Westminster Kennel Club, and he was the handler. Also, we've got Nicholas Dodman. Let me go to Aaron Easterly first. He's the CEO of Rover.com. Rover recently bought Dog Vacay. If you need to leave town and you want somebody to take good care of your dog, or if you just need a dog walker, that is becoming one of the main places to go. And then finally, Nicholas Dodman is a doctor of veterinary medicine and an animal behaviorist and best-selling author. His books include Pets on the Couch, Neurotic Dogs, Compulsive Cats, Anxious Birds, and the New Science of Animal Psychiatry. Yes, you are going to learn it all today. Thank you to all of you gentlemen for being here with me. I want to start off talking about the essentials for dogs and cats. And Nicholas, I want to start with you. You've got like 3 essentials that every dog in particular needs: rehabilitation, exercise, and an appropriate diet. And it seems to me, from what I've seen covering technology, the web, e-commerce, and mobile technology have made it easier than ever to actually supply those things to your pet. Nicholas, what are you seeing?
Oh, I think that's exactly right. A lot of people are moving to online sites and ordering food and medicines and other necessary supplies, and it's almost becoming a kind of consumer-based industry. It's almost like what's happening in the big stores, that people are shopping online. But of course, you still need a veterinarian to do physical examination, but even that might drift in the direction of telemedicine in the future. It's not there yet.
And one of the things that I just think is fascinating, one of the reasons why we sought you out, is you're actually kind of getting into the minds of cats and dogs, what they're really thinking, kind of the issues that they come into people's lives with. Are there ways that technology is allowing us to deal with those perhaps softer or harder to see issues that pets bring?
Sure. We've used a lot of technology in our work. Long story short, started looking at repetitive disorders in dogs like tail chasing.
That's a disorder.
It's a disorder,
Oh.
which is now called a compulsive disorder, a canine compulsive disorder, really an obsessive compulsive disorder. We've discovered genes that cause that problem, so there's a technology in there, genetics. We've done MRI imaging of brains and shown that the brains of these dogs with compulsive disorder have very similar changes to the brains of people who have compulsive disorder. So high tech, looking in great depth, discovering things, novel treatments that actually blend very well with the treatments for humans. So a human being treated with, say, a drug to treat OCD, it would be the same medicine for dogs, and there's a great parallel. And that's kind of what I point out in the dogs, whether it's PTSD, anxiety, compulsive disorder, some kind of phobia, noise phobia, thunderstorm phobia. All these things are sort of almost cookie cutter in the animals. In fact, the whole diagnostic manual of psychiatry is pretty much replicated in the, say, canine population. Wow. And somewhat in the feline population, with a couple of notable exceptions. We haven't identified, chronic sort of cycling conditions like bipolar, and we have yet to discover schizophrenia, if indeed it does exist in pets.
Well, that's good news. Bill Mcfadden, I want to go to you now. In my perhaps ignorance, I view dog breeders as perhaps breeding super breeds of pets that perhaps don't have these issues. But tell me, how are some of these superstars that you deal with different from the everyday pets that most of us have around the house? I mean, is the behavior different as a handler when you're getting a dog ready to perform at the highest level?
Well, every dog, they're just like people. Every dog has its own set of strengths and weaknesses as far as just the overt showmanship. Some dogs are kind of naturals. Some we have to encourage it, work with them, and bring it out. I think it's interesting. I think dogs a lot of times, Nick, you're doing research with personality traits and habits and stuff.
Got Flynn on the screen there, who just won the big one.
Okay. Dogs a lot of times are used with people for those same reasons. You know, there's a real connection that dogs have that can calm people that have some personality disorders or emotional anxieties. So it's interesting to see it all kind of full circle and helping each other out.
And there you are with Flynn ringing the bell at the other stock exchange. Fascinating. So, I wonder if there are ways. You've been doing this for 25 years now, Bill. Are there ways that you use technology at all to deal with these dogs who are operating at this level, going to shows, things like that? I mean, I notice you don't have a huge web presence for your kennel. I guess in a way you're not trying to appeal to a mass audience, so maybe that's why. But do you use it at all, and how you try to help the dogs to do better at what they do?
Not so much at actually helping the dogs. I mean, like Nick said, there is a tremendous online marketplace now. People, all you have to do is Google, like, I wonder if they have booties for dogs, and you can instantly find out where to get them. So for our owners, or for us ordering food or supplies, the technology helps. I'm not very much of a technology person, so I'm still dealing just with the animal. What I've noticed in my business is just being able to communicate with my clients, because I have clients all over the country, some from different countries. So just being able to take a video of a result and send it to an owner has made it so much more tangible for them, because if they're not at the show, they don't get the same experience of participating that they would if they were actually at the show watching.
And Bill, my impression, I didn't realize this before, but when you win at Westminster, or when a dog wins, it's not like in the prize money, it's in the stud fees. Like sometimes you can get a $500,000 stud fee for a winning dog, right? I mean, you might get a silver bowl. No, not that much.
No, not that much.
Okay, what's the?
I mean, that sounds awesome, but no, it's not that much.
Six figures, maybe stud fee.
That would be unusual. I don't think the stud fees would increase that much. Good breeders are pretty selective about who they allow to breed to their dogs, and the stud fees might go up a little bit, but not to six figures. No.
Okay, so what kind of stud fees are we looking at? And is that the way that you are able to continue caring for dogs at this level? Is it really in the breeding and finding good homes for them?
Stud fees, generally, the rule of thumb is stud fee is about equal to the price of a companion animal. So if you're paying $2,000 for a Chinese crested, then that's probably what a stud fee would be. I just want to make it clear that people who breed dogs and show them, you don't make money breeding and showing dogs. You spend a lot of money. It's not, you don't win money at dog shows. There's only one dog show that has a significant amount of money that you win, and it's still a drop in the bucket compared to what you spend. It's really a passion sport. People that do it are passionate about dogs. It's a great family activity. I have a lot of clients who bring their kids to shows. The kids can participate in junior handling. It's wonderful for developing social skills for kids. They have to learn how to deal with winning, losing, getting along with others, and really dealing with adults. So I really see it in the junior handling. I see a lot of positives for kids just in making the transition between teenager to adult. It
Wow.
gives them a good skill set.
Yeah, I can imagine. Just to remind people, this is Fortt Knox Live. I am John Fortt at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square with CNBC, and we are talking about the pet economy and just how huge it has become, and it continues to grow in a lot of ways. I want to talk about some of the services that are available. And just yesterday, as a matter of fact, I went over to the offices of Bark. They are based in Chinatown. They do, among other things, the Bark Box, which is a subscription box you can get for $25 and up. Apparently, dogs really love these things. They're looking at perhaps going public, doing close to $250 million worth of sales in 2018. And I asked the CEO of Bark when he knew that this was potentially a huge idea. Take a listen. At what point did you know that Bark had the potential to be a really big business?
I know the exact moment. So I didn't leave my job for about 6 months after the company started, after we started shipping boxes and getting into it. And
So when was that? When was the beginning?
The first box was shipped in December of 2011.
Okay.
There were 49 shipped that month. We packed them by hand in our little conference room.
How much did you charge? You remember?
$25 a month.
Okay.
I remember because I was the first customer and I'm still a customer, and that's what I'm charged every month. But it wasn't until that April, so my dad is a Luddite. To give you an example of that, that was in, like I said, 2012. December of 2011, he made his first purchase on Amazon, which was a book because I was standing over his shoulder walking him through it. He made this purchase in April of 2012, but he didn't know I was doing it. He stumbled across this in social media.
Oh, he didn't know that it was your company?
No.
Oh.
No idea. As far as he knew, I was a venture capitalist.
You hadn't told him?
No, because he'll tell me all the reasons it won't work. So no, never brought it up, and I thought somebody was pranking me first and said like, hey, my dad showed up as a new subscriber yesterday.
So you're at the point where you're still watching every new subscriber?
Oh yeah, you dig in on everyone of like, okay, how'd they find out? Where do they live? Who is this person? Are they a friend? And I thought somebody was playing a prank on me, and it was genuine. He stumbled across this and thought it was cool and bought it, and right there was the moment I said, there's something going on here. This is crazy that second purchase ever online. First one Amazon, fine. Second one this. So that was the moment for me.
Aaron Easterly, CEO of Rover.com. Something tells me you know what this feels like. I mean, your company last year combined with Dog Vacay, I mean, the two companies combined, Rover plus Dog Vacay, did, I believe, $225 million in revenue. When did you know that this was a big idea? You guys are basically like a combination of Airbnb and Uber for dogs, giving them a place to stay, providing them with some exercise and somebody to walk them. When did you know that this could get huge?
Well, I think when we launched our first market, which was Seattle in December of 2011, the fact that people were using it and we actually had dollars go through the platform and people were using it over an important holiday period, we knew there was a business there, but it was actually several years later where we got a sense of how big of a business it could be. Our business is primarily composed of people that prior to Rover was using friends, family, neighbors to watch their dog when they were out of town. So there was a question of, well, how many of those people would be willing to use Rover instead? And we didn't get a good sense of that until 2-3 years in. It was kind of this constant debate. It's like, okay, there's a business here, but how big? And we'll do about $400 million going through the platform this year. So to give you a sense of how big we are.
Yeah, and you've grown your network of people who are taking care of dogs. You've almost doubled it year over year. What's your process for making sure that the right kind of crazy dog person is going to be taking care of somebody's dog?
Yeah, that's the right question, is the right kind of crazy dog person. So we have a multi-step process, but we generally accept something like 10 to 15% of applicants. For our on-demand offerings, we're probably in the single-digit percentages, low single-digit percentages. There's a background check. There's survey questionnaire. We look at references being submitted. That goes through a technology process where we score people on a variety of dimensions. And then after that, it gets reviewed by a human to determine whether or not we'd be proud of this person being in the marketplace. But the job never ends. We actually spend a lot of time constantly reevaluating all the service providers on the platform, looking at the reviews, looking at the history, looking at their communications with owners, and make sure that we want to keep them on the platform as well.
Dr. Dodman, how much better is these kinds of services with vetted caregivers for pets than what we had 10, 20 years ago, when maybe there was a kennel in town or someplace that would board dogs, or asking a friend, and maybe it was a little bit more catch or catch can? I mean, from a psychological perspective, from the dog, or in some cases cat's perspective, though these guys are dog guys, how much better is this?
Well, it sounds like a major step up in terms of finding a correct placement. Of course, you do know friends and family, but then friends and family don't always live nearby, and they're not always super happy to have the dog or cat dumped on them for X period of time. So, it is very much like a kind of an Uber arrangement, as you were saying, and that is, they can sort of dial up and find an appropriate person who's close by, presumably, and they can drop the dog off and know they're going to get good care. So I like the idea of it. It's like so many things that are bursting and developing in the dog industry now, and it's changing the subject slightly, but say the pet wearables, I understand, is currently like a $1.3 billion industry, now slated to kind of multiply by 5 or 10 times. It's like astronomical, all these various collars you can buy with tracking your dog and speaking to your dog, all the electronics and stuff like that. So even in the daycare situation, you could actually monitor and or listen and talk to your dog.
Now, what do you think about that? Because it seems like in one way, dogs are a lot better than we are. Like they're not going to get obsessed with the screens and cross the street while looking at phones. So their wearables, they know how to put those in the right place. But is this good long term, either health wise or because of monitoring, for our relationships with pets, for the business of taking care of these animals?
I think so. I think it's great. My son gave me one for my birthday, because just a month or so ago, because he knows that my dog used to have separation anxiety now, but the family joke is now I have separation anxiety when I'm separated from my dog. So he bought me this camera, and apparently the camera tracks my dog Rusty all around the house. It's quite expensive camera, but wherever he goes, the little camera eye follows him around, and I can see him on my phone, and I can hear him, and I can speak to him, which, if nothing else, when I'm sitting in a restaurant, gives me some comfort. Oh, good, Rusty's sleeping and resting, and then I don't get indigestion, and I can have the next course. So all of these little devices, I think they're fantastic. There's one called Pet Chats that I'm working with that company now so like a little TV monitor, and spits out treats for your dog, and you can train the dog to press the button on it, and actually it rings your phone. And then you can have a conversation. So it's the only thing that's ever going to happen. You're sitting in a business meeting and your phone goes, "Hey, excuse me for a second, I just got a call from my dog."
So does that give Rusty comfort as much as it gives it to you? Like the camera following him around, your voice coming out of a camera? Like, is that going to scar him, or is he okay?
Oh, it won't scar him, but it may confuse some dogs, but you'd know that because you can see them right away. So you just choose, find out how it works for your dog. It's like everything else. There's no one size fits all, but I think that's a breakthrough. And something else I'm involved in, which is, it's the story of my life really, is sort of behavioral pharmacology. And I've got involved in a company. We're trying to develop, medicinal cannabis for pets.
What?
So it's called We Can Heal. We, C-A-N-N, heal. And we're looking not to go in the face of the federal government and their legislations and their ridiculous classification of, say, CBD as a Schedule I drug. We're using sort of synthetics that will tweak the endocannabinoid system, that will help with pain. And on the human side, you can say how valuable that would be to help to address the opioid epidemic if you had what is actually a better painkiller. So all this sort of stuff, but it's a long story, but that's one of my interests right now, as well as trying to save pets that are going into shelters, trying to improve relationships between people and pets so there's not so much surrender that then translates into oftentimes euthanasia of the animal.
Wow. I had no idea that was a possibility for dogs and the like. Bill, I want to move on. Once again, this is Fort Knox Live. We are talking the pet economy, and I have got a great panel of guests talking to me about it. Bill Mcfadden is the owner of Bold Oaks Kennel in California, and he was the handler for a dog that just won Best in Show at Westminster. Also, Nicholas Dodman is a doctor of veterinary medicine, animal behaviorist, and a best-selling author of books including The Dog Who Loved Too Much, Tails, Treatments, and the Psychology of Dogs. And last but not least, Aaron Easterly is the CEO of Rover.com. Aaron, actually, I'll go to you first. I'm wondering about this new trend in social media where there are some dogs who are influencers. No joke. I mean, way more followers than I have, and it's not based on winning Westminster, though that helps. But some of these dogs, very cute. They'll get dressed up. They're photogenic. How much does that trend influence or drive businesses like yours?
Well, the first thing I'd say is good for them. I think most dogs out there are actually much better looking and friendlier than I am. So the world is a better place by having dogs on Instagram than people like me on Instagram. But in general, one of the biggest trends in the pet industry is the ongoing humanization of pets. And you have two trends that come from that. The customization of products and services and increased desire for transparency. As people increasingly view their dogs or cats as not just family members, but their actual children, you see all the same trends. So instead of sending the family card at Christmas with just family members, dogs are in those photos. And people care just as much about raising their dog as they care about being a good human parent. So we expect that as a natural consequence of the trends in pets. That's actually one of the bets that we placed years ago in terms of why we thought this would be an interesting industry. And my intuition on it is we're in inning 3 of that type of social transition. So it'll be weird 10 years from now if someone has a dog that isn't searchable online, or at least doesn't have a lot of photos that can be found online, whereas 10 years ago it would have been odd in the opposite direction. So I don't foresee that trend ending anytime soon.
So Bill, I want to ask you, I mean, I took a looked up Flynn on Instagram. There's a presence, but a relatively new presence. It seems to me that in your high-end care for these dogs, you're not spending a lot of time on social media. Why is that?
Well, because technology hasn't bought me any extra hours in the week. I wish it would have, but we pretty much spend 7 days a week and not 24 hours a day, but a lot of hours a day taking care of the dogs that we're showing. My business, we're kind of like dog jockeys. People hire us to show their dogs, and we travel to shows every weekend. So most of our work is actually hands-on with the dogs, and there are technologies. Like I said, just shopping is so much easier to be able to order something and have it delivered to you instead of having to physically go out and shop for it is a good time saver. But mostly we deal one-on-one with the dogs and with their owners. And their owners come from all walks of life. Some of them are young families that have a dog, and retirees that have waited for the day they retired to buy a motorhome and travel around the country showing their dog as they vacation and see the USA or Canada. So it's kind of a broad spectrum of people that we deal with. And a broad spectrum of dogs that we deal with.
Dr. Dodman, give me a level set here. Are there are there ways that we shouldn't show cats and dogs on social media, or are there lines to cross? Is it as simple as, if Kitty doesn't seem like she wants to put on those bunny ears, don't put them on? Or, you know, is there a point at which kind of the Instagram-driven obsession of pictures with animals or pictures of animals can become not so great for the pet?
Well, you know, the answer is in the individual pet as to whether they will tolerate being dressed up or whatever, and some will and some it will be an imposition. But you can do the wrong thing sometimes by choosing a pet as an icon. And I think it's back again, but Target, you know, had a bull terrier as their sort of mascot.
That's right.
And that would lead to, you know, people would see this dog and say, oh, how cute, because he's got the red circle around his eye, the bullseye. And they'd go out and buy them, not knowing anything about the dog. And then that increases the breeding, and then you have line breeding, they call it, but sort of inbreeding. And then you have problems with the breed. I mean, you know, the worst thing with Dalmatians was, you know, 101 Dalmatians. I mean, that completely, you know, threw a wrench in that breed. And so sometimes not so much the behavior of the dog itself at the time, you know, they either will or they won't tolerate it, and probably most of them would just be sort of indifferent. It's just for our entertainment. But if you show the wrong kind of dog in the wrong kind of context, and you get overbreeding, and certainly some dogs which are really, quotes, not for the novice, you can do more harm than good.
Well, okay, so it's actually the demand for the dog in most cases it's a dog that actually affects the breed itself. Taco Bell had an issue with the Chihuahua too, if I'm not mistaken, about 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, so I believe the Chihuahua is the breed that is most often surrendered in the southern part of the United States. So, you know, they get them because they're cute and then find out there's some issues, or, I mean, people don't choose dogs very sensibly. It's sort of impulse buy. They do certainly a lot more research buying their next car than they do picking up a dog. It's just plain impulse. They're not thinking it through properly. And sometimes it's the wrong dog for that person, and they find out too late, and then it gets surrendered. And, you know, we're trying to work through some of that directly and indirectly with this group that I'm working with called the Center for Canine Behavior Studies. So we're looking at scientific studies which will help people to understand more about their pets, to understand, say, the effects of punitive training, to understand what kind of people match with what kind of pets. And, you know, we're kind of working with a group which is like caninematch.com. It's called howimetmydog.com. And they've got a wonderful algorithm that pairs pets with, you know, the right person with the right pet to save, you know, return and surrender.
Wow. Okay. Pot for dogs and match for dogs. There's all kinds of things that I didn't even know about. Now, I want to get you guys' final thoughts because we're about to finish up. And Dr. Dobman, I'll start with you. I understand that you have an approach to dog training that's completely positive reinforcement, nothing on negativity or pain. So I'd like each of you to just maybe give one tip from your base of experience that pet owners should keep in mind, maybe something that surprises people or they might not ordinarily think of. And Dr. Dobman, I'll start with you. If you had one thing to share with people that a lot of people get wrong or might not know for caring for their pets, what would it be, advice you would give?
Mine would be that you should not use punitive or confrontational methods, because we just published a study in PLOS journal, PLOS One, a few days ago, actually, Valentine's Day, and it shows once again, absolutely conclusively, that if you use techniques that you might see on television, like alpha rolls and yelling and spanking and using collar jerking methods and stuff like that, what you actually do is increase behavior problems. So aggression begets aggression. So I would say cut out the violence, go positive.
Wow. Okay. And Aaron Easterly, what would be something that you would tell people who are maybe looking for services for their dogs or something out of your experience?
Well, the first thing I'd say is that there are expenses associated with the dogs, and most people, when they do their back of the envelope math, when thinking about getting a dog, they calculate the price of food. That's a small minority of the actual expenses dog owners pay. We estimate just shy of $3,000 will be spent on a dog in its first year, maybe about $2,000 after that. So be thoughtful, choose the right breed, choose the right dog, make sure you have the right environment, and do some financial planning so you don't put yourself in a position of having to surrender a beloved pet.
Good advice from more than pet ownership. And Bill, what would your advice be?
Well, I echo that. I think the most important thing is to make sure you don't buy impulsively. That if you're going to get a dog, make sure that you do your research and find the right dog for your environment, for your lifestyle, and then take good care of it. I think one thing that, as far as cost of dogs or the expenses involved, veterinary care is very expensive, and there are health insurance plans for dogs that, 15 years ago I thought it was kind of ridiculous, but now a lot of good breeders are making that a requirement that if you buy a dog for them, you have to buy the insurance, because it only takes one serious problem to be way more expensive than the cost of the insurance. So it's something to consider when you're getting a dog.
Wow, definitely. And I'm sorry, Dr. Dobman, I believe you had one thing that you wanted to add?
Well, I was going to say something along the same lines that, the cost of veterinary care. I mean, one person came in to me with a dog, they spent $60,000 on its skin. Another one had to have several re-ops for an abdominal problem, and that was $30,000. Gastric dilation, common condition, is $5,000, and people can't afford it. So pet insurance is one way, or you can be your own insurer, open a bank account for your pet and put $20 in a month. And over 10 years, it builds up. You've now got money to deal with a catastrophe, acting as your own insurer. And if you don't need it, you've got money left over for a nice vacation.
Well, thank you, all of you gentlemen, for sharing those insights. Certainly people can use Google and other search engines to do some of that research on really making sure that they're getting the right pet for them. I appreciate all of you joining me. Nicholas Dodman, professor of veterinary medicine, Aaron Easterly, Rover.com CEO, and Bill Mcfadden, Bold Oaks kennel owner. This week on the Fort Knox podcast, we got Matt Meeker. He is the CEO and co-founder of Bark, which includes the Bark Box. You can hear his full story. He's also a co-founder of Meetup, believe it or not. You know, that organization that helps you meet people with similar interests. He's got quite a tale to tell, especially about startups in New York City. This has been Fort Knox Live. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.